reform anything you wanted in there. Subcomponents does not apply to raw materials. I'll do that when we come back to finished goods. Know that it does not apply. So if it is a purchased item, do not fill in this section. Quality, keeping in mind this is a raw material. So the quality is going to be if you're doing raw material QC. And so whatever it is that you're testing as it comes in the door. Whatever it may be. It's pretty simple to set up. And when it comes in the door, you check the % water. You can click add there. You can set target, a low or a high value on this numeric test. You can specify a procedure if there's something specific that you do, or we follow ISO, some number. I'm going to come back to attributes. Properties go with raw materials. Properties are different depending on your industry, and we have different industries represented in the room. If you are food, we can set up properties that are going to be things like calories, vitamin A, vitamin C, calcium, those kinds of things, which when you get to formulas, you could see the total for the formula of all of the calcium or calories or whatever it is that you're tracking. That's the food industry. Paint and chemical industry, things like % pigments, additives, solvents, those kinds of things, you can assign them on your raw material so that when you're doing a formula, it's summing up for you and telling you the % pigment for the formula and the % VOC and all those things that matter for you. Okay. We have a standard list of properties that we use for paint and chemical. For food, you can do more of your own and it will just add in and sum them up. The chemical side does some other calculations with them, which is why they have a specific list. The food side, it tends to be just summation. Or if you ever needed to, we can do customizations to sum up properties as well. So, but properties are being entered in for the raw materials so you can see them on the list. Safety information. We can do all of our governmental organization classifications here if you want to do that. You can also mark if you have to wear gloves when handling this particular item, or you can pick the letter, which turns on the check boxes, whatever your safety guru in-house wants to do. You can choose what you're setting up here. Hazard types. Know that hazards provide a way for us to drill through a product structure. For paint and chemical, they are often used for things like the hazardous ingredients that you have to report on your GHS. But on food, it's also the way that we tend to do an ingredient statement. So what we can do in either side of the house, one hazard type that many people do is on your purchased raw materials, have a hazard ID called all items that you assign to every raw material. If you have that all items on every raw material, we can do things like an ingredient statement or a % breakdown by weight, no matter how many layers up your formula is. So if I take raw materials, I make this whip item, I add a little more raw materials and mix in this other whip item, and I build 5 layers deep, I can then do reporting from that very top layer, drill all the way down to those raw materials by using that all items hazard ID. But it's also how I would do my SARA 313 reporting, my GHS reporting, my governmental agency reporting. Compliance. For reportable components, particularly for chemicals, some for food, You purchase a raw material, but that purchased raw material is not 100% of something that's reportable. Maybe I'm buying something that's in a solution, and so 20% of it is something I really have to report, some form of acid, maybe phosphoric acid, but then the other 80% is water or whatever is the appropriate solvent for that. So I really only need to report 20% of it because that's the acid part. You can use this reportable components section to break out that 20-80 split so that I'm not over-reporting whatever my hazardous ingredient is. A lot of what I'm covering today, just so you know, is things so you at least know that they're out there, so that when you end up in a situation, you're like, this just doesn't fit. But wait a minute, I know she said something. You at least know that the product, it's in the product somewhere, so we can help you find it. More than trying to know exactly how you would go do a specific thing. Text phrases, these can get used in batch tickets if you need them to. They can also get used in any of that compliance reporting, so that if a particular ingredient is present, then it prints this particular phrase.
You would put it on a batch that calls for that? Is that what
Yes.
where would it come? Where would it show, like on the batch?
It wouldn't show, I don't believe it would show on the screen. I have to double check if it shows on the screen, but it would come through to the report. The batch ticket.
The batch ticket.
Yeah. It might show on the screen, I'm just not sure. But I know we can make it come to the report. And documents is where you set up compliance documents. So if you have set up any of your GHS, MSDS, ingredient statement, that kind of thing, this is the setup section. External documents would be if you want to store a copy of a particular document with your component. Keep in mind, this is the master component record. It's not lot specific, so we're not looking for like C of A that's going to be specific to a lot. But if you have vendor specifications that they provide to you, your vendor spec sheet or something like that, you can certainly store a copy of that in here.
And then would it print with?
It wouldn't, I mean, would it?
Because like I have Avocare gives me very specific palette configurations.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do is I make a copy and I stick it in the batch ticket. It'd be nice if I could say for these particular SKUs, use this document to print in the batch ticket.
There are ways to make it include with the batch, which is why you see this include with batch part. I think what you were looking at is more on a finished good than a raw material.
Yes.
So if on the raw material side, if a particular raw material is used in a batch, could I make this come through? I don't believe so. But on finished good, if I'm making a finished good with a batch and I need to print a particular document, that's what we do right now.
Okay. No, that's good.
Is there a way to also include a link anywhere here to another document from you, or does it have to be the actual document stored in this spot?
This would have the actual document stored. Like a copy of the PDF actually gets stored in your SQL server. Right. I said I would cycle back to this attributes section up here. Attributes are anything else. I've covered lots of information so far, but if there's something else that you're like, but I need to store the UPC symbol for Canada, you know, and then I need to store it for China too. Whatever it is that you need to store that we didn't already give you a place for, attributes are user configurable. You can set up whatever you want. So in my clay company here, they've set up some MSDS data. They've got this label approved. They've got these lab results. Kosher for my food people. I've got flavorings. You know, is this banana tones or blueberry tones? If we haven't given you a place and you need a place to store data, attributes are it.
And we also store a lot of things in a SharePoint, so we use an attribute to put a link to the SharePoint area if you want to sort things.
Yeah, what you would probably end up doing is a little bit of a multi-step process. Let's say that, not that it really applies, but let's say this net weight needs to link to some document. You could check the attribute. You could put in a text value that is essentially your link information. And then on maybe an SRS document or something like that, you could use that link. So we don't have a way that you could type an HTTP in here and have it actually go, because it doesn't recognize this as a link. But we can get you there, I think,
Sure.
through some different methods. These are completely user configurable. You do have to come into V2 to actually set them up. But it's setup, application, attributes. And I could add in new ones all day long. The types are yes, no, text, numeric, tag, and range. Personal preference, yes, no, to me is confusing versus a tag. Because keep in mind when you're actually on the screen, like this is technically listed as a tag. So it has this little yes box here that I would check. This one is a tag, so it's not expecting this other yes box. If this were a yes, no, then I really should be looking at this yes, no, have I checked it or not? But I already checked it over here, so why do I have to come over here and check yes? To me, it creates confusion. But there are places for it because you need to specifically say, yes, I've reviewed the net weight, and it's a yes or it's a no. But anyway, yes, no's do get confusing to me, personal preference. But you've got tag, you've definitely got numeric, you've got text, you can do a range, you can do that. Okay. While I'm in here, that was the setup for attributes. A lot of the other fields that I've gone through today, the setup is still in V2, but you can set up to your heart's content. Under setup application, if I needed to add new text phrases that didn't already exist, attributes. If I needed to add new properties, where we talked about, the chemical properties versus some food properties, etc. If I needed to add new QC tests, so my system's completely blank, there are no QC tests at all. This is where you set up the master list of your QC tests. We have double process units. Hazard types, if I needed to set up brand new hazard types. All of this is configurable. You do have to go into V2. Most of you are going to be in V4 now. So you might have to think to go back over to V2 to do your setup, but it's here. All this fun stuff is configurable. What else?